SITREP World Briefing for July 2, 2026. Russia launched a large overnight missile and drone assault on Kyiv early on July 2, killing at least 17 people, wounding dozens, and ripping open residential buildings across the Ukrainian capital. Ukrainian officials said fires broke out after explosions during air raid alerts, and emergency crews searched damaged apartment blocks for survivors as debris littered several districts. The strike was described as one of the biggest attacks on Kyiv since Russia's full-scale invasion, with city authorities confronting severe damage in neighborhoods where civilians were sleeping. Kyiv's mayor declared a day of mourning, while residents and rescue workers moved through shattered stairwells and smoke-blackened courtyards after the bombardment. The attack highlighted Russia's use of combined missile and drone barrages against major urban centers, and Kyiv's role as both Ukraine's political center and a frequent target intended to test air defenses, public morale, and the government's ability to protect the capital. The bombardment came as Ukraine and its partners remain focused on sustaining air defense coverage for the capital and other cities that have faced repeated Russian strikes on housing, energy sites, and transport links. By hitting apartment buildings in Kyiv and causing mass civilian casualties, Russia signaled its willingness to combine military pressure with psychological impact. The immediate stakes are rescue, medical treatment, and further protection for civilians, but the broader consequence is likely to be renewed demands from Kyiv for more interceptors, more launch systems, and faster military support from Western allies. The United States and Iran concluded indirect talks in Doha on Wednesday with an agreement to continue negotiations, preserving a diplomatic channel after weeks of strain. Qatari mediation kept the delegations in separate rooms, and both sides described the talks as showing progress even without a breakthrough. A key practical outcome from the Doha contacts was the establishment of a hotline, a step meant to reduce miscalculation as Washington and Tehran test whether limited confidence-building measures can support a broader negotiation. Doha has become an important venue for this kind of shuttle diplomacy because the United States and Iran do not maintain normal diplomatic relations, and Qatar has repeatedly used its ties with both governments to carry messages on nuclear issues, regional security, and shipping risks around the Strait of Hormuz. The decision to keep talking matters beyond Qatar because any disruption involving Iran can quickly affect Gulf security, energy flows, and U.S. military planning across the region. By choosing indirect talks rather than a public confrontation, Washington and Tehran signaled that neither side wants the recent hostilities to close off negotiation completely, and the planned follow-up after Khamenei's funeral gives mediators a defined next step instead of leaving the process open-ended. The European Court of Justice in Luxembourg on Thursday rejected Google's final appeal against a $4.8 billion, $4.1 billion European Union antitrust penalty, upholding one of Brussels' biggest competition rulings against a U.S. technology company. The case stems from the European Commission's finding, first issued 8 years ago, that Google used its Android mobile operating system to restrict rival services and strengthen the dominance of its own products across the smartphone market. The ruling is significant because Android remains one of the central gateways through which consumers reach search engines, browsers, apps, and advertising services on mobile devices. EU competition authorities have spent more than a decade arguing that large technology groups cannot use control of operating systems or app ecosystems to shut out competitors before users make a choice. For Google, the judgment closes off its last route to overturn a landmark EU sanction, while for the European Commission it reinforces a broader regulatory strategy that has paired large fines with stricter digital market rules aimed at curbing the power of dominant platforms in Europe. Sources and the full written briefing are available at sitrepbrief.com.